Hello everyone and welcome to this week's edition. In fact, it's not even this week's edition, is it? It's a special edition. And it's going to surprise quite a lot of people out there. Some people it won't surprise. Some people it will. It's not going to be a happy story. It doesn't have a happy ending. Not everything in life does have a happy ending. It's a story about pride, insecurity, lack of self-belief, lack of confidence, about class divide in the UK. But it's high time that I actually found the courage to come out and say, it's me. I'm the girl from the subway. I'm James Blunt's secret muse. And it's not just the one song. So, this week's additional podcast, okay, it might surprise all of my family and friends. Some of them it won't surprise. It won't surprise my partner, who has been incredibly supportive over this whole thing. And it won't surprise James Blunt. He knows it's coming. Don't worry, I haven't gone crazy, okay? I wouldn't be publishing this podcast if I was not 150% sure that this was all true. It's a podcast that I've wanted to write for a long, long time, but I kind of had to get it straight in my mind and get all the facts and gather as much evidence as I could together. And I have, and here it is. So I'm the girl from the subway, James Blunts Muse. It was the 2nd of November, 2002, I think anyway. I know that it was bonfire night. I've worked that out from the year just by discounting other things that happened. So I think that's the actual date, the 2nd of November, 2002. My boyfriend and I at the time, we'd gone down to London because we lived in Cheshire. In fact, he lived in Glasgow and I lived in Cheshire. We'd gone to London for my birthday for the weekend, which is on the 26th of October, and I was born in 1973. We were going to watch Chicago, which starred Gabby Roslin. She's amazing in it. And we'd found out that there was a free fireworks display at Battersea Park on the same night. We had an early tea and we went to watch the fireworks and then went to watch the musical. And I think it was on the way back from the fireworks, I passed him in the subway. A slim, shortish man, scruffy looking, longish brown hair. I can't remember what he was wearing. It might have been jeans. But our eyes met amongst a crowd of people. And I could see that he was high as a kite. And I was a little bit wary, if I'm honest. But there was also a massive flash of light when our eyes met. And I felt an instant connection to him. Something that I have never experienced before or since. From the look on his face, it was almost as if a cherub had drawn back his bow and shot it straight through his heart. But I was with my boyfriend. All I could do was smile at him as I walked by, and my boyfriend at the time gripped my hand that little bit tighter as he saw the way that this man was looking at me as well. And then we carried on, and that was that. It was just a moment on the subway. And since then I have walked past thousands of other faceless people, and I've never remembered meeting any of those. When James Blunt came out with the song You're Beautiful, I thought it was strange that it was a very similar moment describing exactly what had happened. He looked very similar, but by 2005, I'd put on quite a lot of weight, and then my boyfriend was now my husband, and I was really, really happy. And then James said it was an ex-girlfriend. So I really wasn't sure that it was me. And then my now ex-husband and I did go to see James in 2006 in Birmingham. And he came really close to us, but he didn't look directly at me. There was no flash of light. And if I'm honest, I went away from the concert feeling a little disappointed that it wasn't me. Then all sorts of rumours started emerging about James. He was caught cheating on his girlfriend. Then he seemed to be sleeping around with lots of supermodels. Rumours that he was gay. He was living the typical drug-filled music star lifestyle, which was just not me. I didn't do drugs. I didn't need them. I was always a really happy, upbeat person, and I didn't want to be famous. I didn't want the press taking my photos, putting circles over cellulite. I have the wrong hair. It's really fine. It looks rubbish most of the time, especially if I try and grow it long. I didn't want people saying that I wasn't beautiful. I'd been bullied at school, and the last thing that I wanted was to be bullied now when I was really happy. Then people turned on him. His music became really unpopular. It was a bit like Marmite. So I didn't want people to turn on me if they found out it was me. He also kept saying the song was about an ex-girlfriend, so I thought, well, it must be. I didn't go to see him again. I bought most of his CDs and listened to them when I was in the car, usually when I was on a long journey. And I remember one really scary journey that I had to make on a trip to work from Glasgow to Manchester. I was driving in the snow, cars crashing all around me, and I was really scared. And I sang his music all the way and felt that it kept me safe. I felt guilty listening to his music if I was at home. I felt like I was betraying my ex-husband. I'd rarely dream, but when I did, it would usually be about him. I just didn't tell anyone. Then I kept seeing visions of him sitting on a fence, waiting, and I had this feeling that something was wrong with him. I just had this feeling that I just couldn't shake. It was as if I'd forgotten to do something and that time was running out. In 2019, he released Once Upon a Mind. And there were a couple of songs in there that really made me think. One of them was The Truth. And the video shows him in London and he's clearly looking for someone. He even goes into a shop like the one he goes into in Same Mistake. And at the end of the song he sings, I will search with every fibre. If you're out there, leave a light on, because the distance is getting wider and I know I've got to find you. And I knew that that message was for me. There is also a line in How It Feels to Be Alive which said, you use my heart as your souvenir. So he knew I was a tourist, which fits exactly with where we were. I started to wonder at that point if he had maybe followed me home. Because he was a reconnaissance officer, a trained military spy. But shortly after the song You're Beautiful was released, a girl had moved from London to Cheshire and kept her horse on my horse's yard. She lived in the village up the road, and her husband was a captain in the Household Cavalry, the same regiment that James had been captain in. I found out much later from my farrier when I was living in Scotland, who had also been in the Household Cavalry, the regimental farrier, and James had been his captain, that my friend's husband was captain at the same time James had been. So it's likely that James saw my picture on Facebook and recognised me. When I look back, one of the lines in Don't Give Me Those Eyes is it kills me that you're married. And then there had been 1973, the year of my birth, which you could have also got from Facebook, and Bonfire Heart. It was bonfire night when we saw each other. Then there was Stop the Clock, about being unable to stop time, which was how I had been feeling. It also seems fated that I should have had so many connections with his regiment wherever I was living in either Cheshire or Scotland. It was Christmas 2019, the COVID pandemic was about to hit, and I thought, what if it is me and something happens to one of us in the pandemic and we never know? I'd also got to the point that I needed an answer to the question, was it me? Because it was playing on my mind, and whenever I'd get to around October time, it would just be a constant thought. It was all I could think about. And I mean, no one else had come forward. No ex-girlfriend said, yeah, it was me. So after watching Love Actually, inspired by Andrew Lincoln's character, I sent him a message on Facebook. He'd always made it really clear that he did his own social media. So I found his account on Facebook and I said something like, hi, I know you said it was an ex-girlfriend that you saw on the subway, but I remember a similar thing happening to me with a guy who looked just like you quite a few years ago. he was high as a kite, and he kind of looked as if he'd been shot through the heart with an arrow. So as it's Christmas, I just thought I would check. I thought that I would wait until the next album came out and see what songs were said. If I'd checked his Twitter account on Valentine's Day in 2020, the tweet was, "I'm obsessed with you in a really creepy way." And I also didn't notice that in June 2020, he changed the name of Once Upon a Mind to Time Suspended Edition. In the beginning of April 2020, I'd been made redundant and we were in danger of losing our farmhouse. I went to work in a hospital as part of a new COVID ward that was opening. Luckily, it was never actually needed, because I was in the only hospital in Scotland where we were living now that was actually able to contain the virus. And having caught COVID and been really ill and being unable to breathe at one point, I knew that I had antibodies to fight the virus off. Hence going for the job as a domestic, which I was thankful to get, as jobs were scarce at that time. I looked so terribly ill with COVID. I did remember looking in the mirror and thinking, James Blunt won't think I'm beautiful now. At the same time as I went to work in the COVID ward in April 2020, he dedicated his song The Greatest to NHS workers for looking after his father. He released the Stars Beneath My Feet album in 2021, and I was waiting to see what the new songs said. The first one was Love Under Pressure, and it was obvious to me that he was telling our story. With the words, "You didn't show without a care, I'm still there. Yeah, how can it be? You do the maths, the fire that burned has turned into ash." Well, that fitted with Bonfire Night and I hadn't shown up. And I'm not giving up this time around. And say it all fitted with our story. Adrenaline was practically a rewrite of the Facebook message that I'd sent to him. And I remember hearing an interview where he said he'd had a little bit of inspiration. Unstoppable. Well, being an equestrian, I lived in skinny jeans. It was autumn when I saw him, and the lines, "Now time won't break the chain, and now I know you and you know me." Well, yeah, it all fitted with our story. I found an old interview that he had done at Oxford University Press. Or rather, university. I don't think it was press. I think it was university. I'd always avoided everything that he'd done in the media and social media. I wasn't on social media. And it was the first time that I actually heard him say in an interview that the person You're Beautiful was about was a stranger. And then I went into meltdown. My marriage, which I was really unhappy in at this point, and the life that I'd built for myself, or that we'd built for ourselves, went completely wrong. I remember sitting on a bench outside my farmhouse thinking that I was in the wrong life. I was supposed to be part of something big. I heard an interview that James did, which is on YouTube, in November 2021. One part is called The Truth, in which he says the truth is in the songs. Everything I do in real life is a lie. So after taking a massive courage pill, I wrote to him, care of the Fox and Pheasant, his pub, sent by recorded mail, saying, I understood the words in the songs, having previously wondered why most of my life stories seemed to pop up in a lot of them. It was a really emotional letter, and I said he looked really unhappy, and I was concerned that he might be using drugs, as he was always talking about being high, and he didn't seem to be free. And I've since noticed a TikTok video in October 26, 2022, on my birthday with a hashtag pointless. Sorry, it was 2021, which said hashtag pointless. So I started commenting on a couple of his posts, and I could see when he sang an unprecedented version of Bonfire Heart on the Chris Evans Breakfast Show on the 26th of November 2021 that he looked just so excited. He was singing it differently with more energy. He then admitted in March 2022 that You're Beautiful was about stalking someone else's girlfriend and not about an ex-girlfriend. I sent him a message on Instagram before one of his concerts that I went to see him in Germany, saying I still wasn't sure it was me. And he jumped off stage at that concert and he ran around to see me in the crowd. I couldn't quite believe it, wearing his gas mask, because in the letter I had written to him, I said, "Who is the man behind the mask?" I went to see him 17 times on that tour, partly as a way of working out whether or not this crazy story could actually really seriously be true, but also as a way of apologising for not going to see him in the years before. The first time I did go and see him on that tour, his words he said from the stage were, "It's been so..." I'm going to have to use the beep here if I need to try and find it. Hard. You can probably imagine what that was. So, yeah, just to repeat, because I'm not sure I got that right, trying to find the buttons. He said, "It was so hard." And I thought, I'm sure that message was for me. And every time I went to see him in concert, there was something that came across, including, I think the last time was, I didn't want to be that man when we first met. I felt an enormous amount of guilt for not having supported him. He did seem to be looking at me an awful lot when I was in the crowd. I had an incident in one German concert where one girl actually moved from the front of the stage being dragged out by the security guys, and she came and stood right in front of me where I was on the left-hand side, as he was not looking at her, but he was looking at me. And people were whispering around me saying that I was really pretty and that I was English. And when I'd seen him in Glasgow, I stood up to sing "I Really Want You" straight at him, right from the middle of the audience. It was my way of showing my support for him, but also to try and build up my confidence, which I'd lost during my marriage. And going to see him those 17 times, travelling on my own to all those places and going to arenas on my own, they really, really helped me. I saw him fist pump at the end of that song, and people were whispering, maybe they're an item, at the end of the concert as I was leaving. He also mouthed thank you to me mid-singing "You're Beautiful" in Dresden when I was at the front of the crowd, and everyone turned to look at me. I also heard an interview in Germany in 2022 saying that he had a muse who some of the songs were about, and by that stage I knew that it was me. So I had to arrange to meet him. I donated a large sum of money to children in need to have lunch with him. And I knew the instant that he walked in that it was him I had seen that day on the subway. He didn't even need an introduction. He knew who I was straight away. And he motioned from the bar, "Did I want a drink?" And then when we sat down to lunch, the first words he said to me were "forever." But I could see he was really, really nervous. And he was chatting to me, or trying to. But he just came out with lots of little random words. And I was a bit sad for what might have been. You see, as soon as I met him, I immediately got the feeling that we should have been together. We had a lovely cuddle, though, in front of everyone on the This Morning team as we gate crashed their Christmas party on the 6th of December 2022. And he released his documentary One Brit Wonder on the anniversary of our meeting on the 6th of December 2023. Shortly after we met, he brought out the song "Can't Forget You." And since then, he's released his book on my birthday, the 26th of October 2022, and an album, Who We Used to Be, on the following day. And I recently saw a reel on Facebook of an interview he did with Today Australia about 9 weeks ago. And just after he says "milking it," he says "on her birthday." And if you check his tour dates for Australia, he's touring and playing on my birthday, the 26th of October this year, 2025. So he clearly wants people to know, but he's actually really insecure and lacks confidence despite being a superstar. And listening to his songs, he's also scared of rejection. And as I didn't come forward back then, I feel it's on me now to come forward and say, "It's me." I am worried about what people will think. As I'm not an heiress or a supermodel, I don't have any connections or any money. I'm just a normal, everyday person with no glamour. I don't wear much makeup. I don't care about fashion. I spend most of my life in my jobbers. I like going out for nice meals. I don't diet constantly because, hey, life's just too short for that. And I'm not really into beauty stuff. I can't be bothered with it. I like doing fun things and exciting things, not the usual girly stuff. And I do really like his music, though. I've always have. He sings about things he has done wrongs, his failings. He self-reflects about who he is a person, which other people don't always do. He also overthinks a lot, just as I do. So he probably suffers from anxiety, just as I have done. I feel sad that I didn't get to see him on this tour back to Bedlam. Because I know for the album, he did put the song Butterflies on it, because I told him that I really, really liked that one. And it was on a B-side of High, one of the singles. And also 1973, I got a hold of a copy of that. And it's in pink. Pink was my favourite colour, still is one of my favourite colours. But when I was riding, all my equestrian stuff, my friends will tell you, was always bright pink. But I do wish him the very best for his Australian tour. If it hadn't been for him, for finally getting the message out to me that the song is about me and some of the other songs are about me, 1973, Bonfire Heart, High, Can't Forget You, Some Kind of Beautiful, and I think there's probably a few more out there as well. I'd probably have still been married and really unhappy. Instead, I'm now really happy. I'm in a new relationship with an amazing man. I've started a podcast. I've got a fantastic job. Listening figures have grown to my podcast. I'm writing a book. I've run a marathon because on the back of meeting him for the Children in Need thing, I got an email asking me to go to a marathon ready retreat, which I did. And I met an amazing group of friends and we've run and done loads of running. We've been to marathon to Medoc. We've been to Portugal. We've done a mental health run. We've had such an amazing time, and I've raised a lot of money for charity, and I've done tons of other things through my podcast, and I've shoved it all up on Instagram ahead of releasing this podcast. But I'm now a much stronger person. I don't suffer from anxiety or stress, and James seems a lot happier in his life as well. And he's brought out new music, and he's clearly working on another album, and he's got his inspiration back. So I wanted to say thank you to James, who's written me some lovely songs about me. And I hope that he's listened to my podcasts, because I made them not only to help myself, but to help him as well. And he seems to be growing and changing as a person and becoming more confident, which is great. And he and his wife seem really happy together, and he started a family, which is lovely. And the message that I want to send to him and to everyone else that listens to my podcast is that obsessive love isn't healthy. There's more to life than getting high on drugs. Money isn't the most important thing. It may give you power, but it doesn't give you happiness. You find that inside yourself. You need to put others first. Always give more than you can take. If you are lying, then the person you are hurting the most is yourself, as you can't be who you truly are. Don't keep secrets. They really do eat you up inside. And this particular one has really, really eaten away at me, and I can no longer keep it. I don't want to keep it. I want to be who I really am. And beauty isn't on the outside. It's on the inside. And as the Beatles said, all you need is love.